Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am so glad you are here. I know that just showing up and taking this time today took something. And so I really want you to know that whether you've been struggling for years and years, or whether you're just starting to wonder if something needs to change, I so value you being here. This is a safe space. So today we're going to talk about something that I know that is exhausting for so many people, and that's the food noise. That's the constant thoughts, the guilt, the mental chatter. It just doesn't stop. By the end of this, you're going to understand why it's happening and what you can do to actually quieten it. So let me guess why you're here today. You want things to be different. You want to move forward in your relationship with food. You want recovery to feel possible, but something keeps getting in the way. Because the food noise right now in society, on social media, in the media, it is just so loud, isn't it? The constant posts that we're seeing, the constant diets that are coming out, just the weight loss drugs and the information that's constantly surrounding us. It's exhausting. It's the constant thoughts about what you've eaten, what you shouldn't eat, what other people are eating, the guilt, the comparisons, and the shame, and that mental maths that never stop. It's exhausting and it can take up so much of your brain space and your life. So, I am sure that you have tried things. Of course, you have. You've read the books, you've followed people on social media, you've signed up to programs and courses, you've gone to webinars like this, perhaps. Maybe you've had some therapy or even seen a dietitian. But for some reason, it's not worked. Maybe it's worked for a bit, but then something goes wrong and you're back to square one, wondering what's wrong with you. Now, I just want to say nothing is wrong with you. Let me just say that clearly. It's the fact that the approach wasn't complete enough. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to try something different. Something that I am finding is actually getting people long, real, lasting results. It's not a quick fix, and I need to let you know that right at the start, but this is about a genuine mindset shift and a genuine long term fix. Now, before we dive in and I get all over excited, let me introduce myself. I'm Priya, and I've been working as an eating disorder dietitian for over 18 years. I've worked within the NHS, I've worked privately, and I've seen so many brilliant, intelligent, determined people struggle. Not because they weren't trying hard enough or they had a lack of willpower, but because the system and society has been letting them down. So I got frustrated. I decided it was time to do something about it. I built a new way of working, one that combines the science that I know works with the real human support that people really need. And I have so much hope for recovery for you. I have seen it happen over and over and over again, and I want you to experience that. So, what to expect today? I'm going to talk you through three common problems that I come across that block recovery and that keep the food noise loud. And by the end of this, I'm hoping you will have some concrete ideas you can take away to work on yourself. Let's get started. Now, I want you to imagine right now where you are. Perhaps you're standing at a crossroads right now. We've got the old way, the way of restriction, of constantly tracking, of trying to eat less, of fighting, of trying and trying and trying and slipping over again. That's one road. Today, I want to show you what the other road looks like. So I hope you can just go on this journey with me and open your mind to this fresh approach. Let me start with a testimonial because hearing from somebody else is always powerful. So, this is a story that I have of somebody who said this about working with me, and I love it because it sums up what I'm aiming for. This person told me that what really made the difference for her was knowing there was no shame, there were no fads, just real evidence based support. And that's what I'm all about. Now, let me move on to those 3 problems. I told you I'd cover them. So, problem 1, you're constantly thinking about food. Problem 2, you know what to eat. All the time people say this to me. I know what to do, Priya, but I can't do it. And then problem 3, the fear of weight gain and what recovery will mean. Starting with number 1, constantly thinking about food and your body. You think about food when you wake up, it's the first thing that pops into your head. You think about food when you go to bed. What have I eaten? Should I have done that? Oh my goodness, I slipped up. That was wrong. You think about food when you're working, when you're studying, all the things you're doing through the day. Food is constantly in the forefront of your mind. You think about food when you're meant to be present with your family and your loved ones, when you're out with others. It takes over everything and stops you being fully engaged in your own life. It stops you doing things. It stops you enjoying life. It stops you enjoying food. And yet, for a lot of people, they'll tell me they really love food. So, why is this happening? Now, there can be 3 big forces at play. Firstly, eating has become way too complicated. There are too many rules to follow, too many people telling you to do certain things, too many things you have to include in your diet. Secondly, diet culture. We are swimming in messaging that tells us our bodies are problems to be solved. And third, the pursuit of perfection. The idea that if you can just be perfect with food, everything will be okay. None of these things, I have to say, are your fault, but they are making recovery harder. So, you've probably tried many things, including meal planning. You've tried writing down what you should eat, you've tried sticking to it, you've tried eating more regularly. You get the theory, eat at set regular times, try not to skip meals. But actually doing it, when the moment comes, something else takes over, and then you feel like you failed again and again and again. So here is where my framework comes in. I call it the 3 R's. And the first is regularity. Now, why? Well, your body loves routine. It just wants to feel safe. And when your body doesn't know when food is coming, it goes into a kind of survival mode. And that's when those food thoughts can go through the roof. Your body wants this safety, and the way that we bring it is through this eating. Now, we're not talking about eating ad hoc, we're talking about eating regularly 5 to 6 times a day. Often this can be by the clock because sometimes those hunger signals, they're erratic and they're not reliable. But we need to signal to the body that food is coming, this is when it's coming, so that it can relax. This also starts to challenge dietary restriction all on its own. It can reduce binge eating and it improves how your metabolism and your digestive function and your blood sugars work all in one go. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I've tried this before and I don't know when to eat and I've struggled to do it. Well, you do need to eat at the right times, but when is that? Well, we need to make sure you're not going too long between eating. So if you have just tried to stick to 3 meals a day with a snack at some point, then that might be why this hasn't worked, because your body needs you to eat more often than that in this stage. We need to make sure that you're eating every 3 to 4 hours and that you have the right balance of food groups at every meal so your body doesn't feel like it's missing anything. You also need to include the fun foods, and these are the foods that bring you pleasure. They're foods that quite often are high in fat, high in salt, high in sugar. Yes, they might be ultra processed, but actually we need a little bit of these in here so that we aren't feeling that we're constantly on a diet and working from restriction. And then we also need to rewire the thinking processes and that mindset. And this is often the bit that gets missed. It's not about, I'm on a new diet, I'm on a new way of doing things. This is about building a new way of our brains functioning and thinking about food. And that has to be done at the same time. And in conjunction with that, we have to work on the nervous system too. Maybe you've heard this because there has been chat about it, but you don't know where to start. So often, these two last bits, they are the missing gap. And that's why having the support really matters. Now, enough from me talking. Let me give you a story. I love this story. This lady came to me as a working mum. She's actually somebody really high functioning. She works as a vet. She has autism and ADHD, and she was binging and purging every single day. She couldn't stop. She'd had years of NHS treatment and multiple types of private therapy. And she was exhausted and really contacted me because she had lost hope, but she still wanted to try. So she came and joined my group coaching program. I didn't know how things were going to go. And I am delighted to say that after 12 weeks, she worked so hard. She focused on that regular eating. She focused on her nervous system. And we also focused on that brain rewiring project. And after 12 weeks, she had stopped purging. Her binging had completely reduced. She'd managed to introduce lots of fear foods, and she was actually doing things like being able to go out and have a hot chocolate with her children. She'd managed to bring chocolate back into the kitchen cupboard, and it was all safe. She'd hugely reduced some of the things that she was using as her fillers, like Diet Coke, and she'd stopped weighing herself all the time. Now, this was monumental for her. What helped? Regular eating, adding in snacks, not just breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We put snacks in, increasing the variety of food she was having rather than sticking to just her safe foods. We did food challenges throughout the 12 weeks. She had accountability and she felt like people were really listening to her. Now let's move on to problem 2, shall we? Problem 2, you know what to do, but you just can't do it. You've tried and tried. You have the best intentions, you set out in the morning, all ready to go. You're going to eat that snack, you're going to put the carbs in, you understand the science. But whilst you aren't stupid and it makes sense to you logically, when the moment comes, something stops you. The fear kicks in, our brains just don't like change, and it can be paralyzing. In the moment, your thoughts spiral and you imagine the worst. That fear can totally paralyze you. And even though rationally you know that the worst thing won't happen, you know that the food is actually needed, your brain won't let you move forward. You actually feel like you can't think straight, which means you can't just push through. And it feels impossible to eat that food, complete that meal, or do any of those things. And this is what fear does to a brain under threat. This brings us to our second R, which is retrain. And this is all about retraining our brains in the way that they're thinking about food. Now, fear is a survival mechanism. It's there to keep us alive. It's our brains trying to keep us safe. But in this particular instance, it's misfiring. And your brain is treating food as a threat when food is actually what your body needs to heal. So we have to show our brain that food is safe. No amount of rationalization is going to help you right here. We have to actually retrain the brain and the thoughts. We have to use techniques such as breathing exercises and temperature work, becoming aware of thinking patterns, using mantras, and critically the support of a community. But the important bit is you have to build a new neural pathway. Sounds big, hey? But I promise you it's possible because our brains are so clever. We can rewire them all the time. So maybe it's time for a fresh mindset. Now, here's one of the things I want you to do with me. We didn't know you were going to have to do something, but I'm going to throw this one in. I want you to bring your hands up in front of your face. So right now, when I look in front of me, all I can see is my hands. I can see some little chinks of light through which I can maybe just see bits of my computer screen. And if I dart my eyes from side to side and up and down, I can see little bits around me. But pretty much all I can see is my hands. Now think about your hands as being that thought of, if I eat this, my weight's going to go up, or I shouldn't have had that. It's bad for me. Now, when your thought is right here in front of your face, it is consuming, it's pretty much taking up all of life. I want you to start to lower your hands away from you a little bit at a time and notice what happens. So now I can see over the top of my hands, I can see all around me, but that thought is still there. I haven't made it go away. I'm not ignoring it. I'm not trying to push it underwater and hold it there. I'm just letting it be in my periphery and getting on with the rest of life. And this is part of the work we do when we're retraining our system. We learn how to tolerate those uncomfortable thoughts and let them be there whilst we get on doing the stuff we need to do. So think about this as being like a path through a forest. We've got an old path. It's really well worn. It's easy to walk along. It's easy to see. Now, the new path feels very overgrown and very unfamiliar at past. And in actual fact, when we're building this new pathway and this new way of working, you've got to hack the trees down, you've got to remove the brambles, you've got to dig up things that are in the way, you've got to move big stones. But then the more and the more you work on it, and the more that you walk back and forth along this new route, it gets clearer. With every repetition, it becomes more normal. And that is us building a new neural pathway. We're building a new way of thinking about food in our brains. So, part of the important work is to identify some of the old ways of thinking you've got that are keeping you trapped. Think, actually, how should I be thinking about this? What is the helpful way to be thinking about this? And how am I going to try and build this new pathway in my brain? I'm going to give you another story. Now, AD started the Recovery Tribe having just gone to university after a year out working on his eating disorder. He had gone to daycare, he had been through the NHS system, and he was eating now. He was eating enough to some extent, but not enough for him to remain at university long term. So he came to join me on the Recovery Tribe. After 12 weeks, he told me that he no longer felt that food was the enemy, that nothing was off limits. He no longer tracked his calories and he didn't have an urge to do so because he knew it hadn't been helping him. He'd been very skeptical about some of the exercises we'd done, but he'd actually found that some of those had been so helpful. And he had worked out that if he wanted food, it was better to allow himself to have it rather than to restrict it. So what happened? What helped him? What changed? The breathing techniques. They were so helpful for AD specifically. And that we tried a whole range because there's never just one that works. Because sometimes if you've tried breathing techniques before and you're like, well, this doesn't work for me, maybe you need to try a variety of different ones and work out which one does fit. He actually found that temperature helped him, so using ice and using cold water. And then the awareness of different thinking styles and being able to notice, when is my thinking getting negative? When am I spiraling? When am I catastrophizing? When am I being too black and white? He also found the mantras that we use really helpful, but the community support to challenge his thinking made a really massive difference. The huge surprise that he found was the breathing and the mindfulness exercises, which he didn't sit with him to start with, but actually over the 12 weeks, we found some that really worked for him. So let's move on to problem 3, and that's the fear of weight gain and what recovery will really mean. So often with this problem, the question is, people don't know what their body is going to end up looking like. If I do all of this work, What will I look like? Will people like me? Will I still fit in? Will I be cared for? Will I like me? And who will I be if I don't have my eating problems? This is who I am. It's safe, because so often your eating problems have been there for such a long time. They're part of who you are. You're the person who doesn't eat this. You're the person who constantly counts things. You're the person who doesn't go out to eat socially. And I hear this, and I want to be honest with you. I can't pretend that these fears will disappear, but I can tell you what happens when we work on them together. Part of this problem can also be, how will I cope? How's it going to be? How's it going to impact my life? And also, who will I be? What is my new identity? So I hear you if you feel that you want to make change, you want to recover, but you don't know what that's going to be like. And that is a massive fear, and we need to acknowledge it. But if you're not enjoying being where you are right now, is there not part of you that thinks it might be worth taking the risk and trying change to see? Actually, it might end up better than you ever thought. And that's what people tell me when they work on this all the time. They tell me that actually they have gained so much in terms of the vibrancy in their life, the connection with other people, the flexibility and spontaneity to just go off and do things, because food is so much part of our everyday culture. So, our third R of recovery, our third R here is about restoring. So, we work on restoring your identity. Recovery isn't just about food, it's about restoring who you are. It's about remembering your values, remembering who you are, remembering those things that people love about you. And that can be so important to do. It's also about restoring your purpose, your reasons to be here, what you stand for, and your reasons, therefore, to do this work. So I'd really encourage you to go away from today and to think about, who am I? What do I stand for? What is my purpose? Therefore, what are the points and the reasons that I need to focus on doing this recovery work and healing my relationship with food? You also might need to restore your body function and your brain function, because if you have been under eating for a long time, or well, not even a long time, if you have been cutting your calories down too low, then actually that's going to impact your body's function and your brain function. Let me tell you a story about Lou. Now, Lou lost her weight during her A-levels when things were really, really hard. She was restricting her food and exercising heavily in her room. She didn't like her body, and people found her hard to be around, and she found other people hard to be around. Her period stopped, and she stopped seeing friends. She became very isolated and withdrawn. And after 12 weeks, I have to say right at the start, she was very quiet on our calls, and I wasn't quite sure how she was finding things, but she stuck with it. She did the work. And after 12 weeks, she was back to eating out with her friends. She was enjoying the social occasions and enjoying things that had felt so, so hard and almost impossible. Her period came back, which was incredible. Her brain fog lifted, and she told me that her brain worked better. Yes. So you can see the wins that she had from working on this. What helped her? What helped most was the work on regular eating, on portions, and being encouraged by everybody else. Hearing that others were doing this work too, and she also really got on with the meditations that we used. So there it is, the 3 R's that I would encourage you to go away and focus on. The regularity, making sure you're giving your body the safety of consistent nourishment. That's 3 meals and snacks at regular times throughout the day, all of those food groups and the fun foods. Then we've got retraining, noticing the unhelpful thoughts that are coming up in your brain over and over again. I sometimes talk about this as, what's the story? What's the story your brain is telling you that isn't helpful and that is actually a lie? And how are we going to retrain that? How are we going to start building a better story that's going to help you for life? And then restoring, reclaiming your identity and your life. This is so, so key. These three things work together, and that is what really makes recovery move forward. So I'd love to talk to you for a few minutes about the Recovery Tribe. This is almost like my baby. I love working with people in this group situation. And what we do, why I created it, was due to the gap that people told me about. They told me about the lack of support that there was out there, feeling that they were having to work on their relationship with food by themselves, feeling that they weren't sick enough for other support, but also that one-to-one support was really expensive. So this is a cheaper option, but it's also not a lesser option, because I actually find that working with people in groups like this is so valuable. It helps you to know you're not alone and that others are feeling the same. So in the Recovery Tribe, what do? Well, we have weekly group calls that are led by me, where we go around and we offer support to everyone who is there. And we also get to know each other, which is just lovely, and share a bit of life together. In those calls, we use practical skills to help calm your body and your mind. So we always do an exercise. That means you get to try a range of different techniques over the 12 weeks. And I encourage you to use these skills in between the sessions and find the ones that really work for you. Then we have therapeutic skills that you can refer to. There is a whole set of modules of educational resources and videos for you to go and watch, and I will direct you towards the ones that are going to be most helpful for you in that moment. And then we have our community, and this is a very, very safe space. I monitor everything, and it's a place where people support one another. There is nothing triggering or inappropriate that we are posting or that we are discussing. We're there to support people. So if you've been in a group situation before and you found it really unhelpful, I'm here to help you find this method helpful. So that's a little bit about what we do. One last testimonial here. Here's what people say. So, for example, one member said that she felt for the first time in her life, she felt understood by a professional. She felt being in a community of individuals made her feel supported and less lonely. And she felt that actually she was able to connect her need and wanting to recover for the first time. And another member told me that they found the live group sessions were so, so helpful. And lots of people will say, I don't know what I think about the group element, but when we dive into it, it really does work and people do connect. We're talking about very, very small groups here. So what do you get for the Recovery Tribe? Well, you get an initial discovery call with me. Sometimes we do that the first week of the course. Sometimes we've done that already. And that's a chance for me to just get to know you and to give you some initial baseline advice. Then there are my 12 in-depth modules of education, and those are short videos. Literally, some of them are a couple of minutes long, and I'll direct you towards which module to look at which week. So we go through these together. Then we have our small group coaching calls, and those happen weekly at an agreed time. You've got resources to download to keep and reuse over and over again. And then we've got our community group for daily peer support and access to me. So I go into that group and I reply and respond. And you can see the value here. You can see how much this is for the 12 weeks. However, I have got this on offer on my website at $597 or £199 a month. But for you guys today, as a thank you for being here, and because I want to make this accessible and affordable, I've got a 25% discount. The code will be emailed out to you. It's only going to be valid for today, so please do sign up. And this literally could be what makes the difference to your recovery. I know that recovery happens. I know it's so worth it. People wouldn't do it if it wasn't worth it. You know, they would get to the end of recovery and go, no, this didn't work for me. And they don't. I've got people who've been recovered for years who still say it was the best thing they've done. If you've got some questions, hopefully these might help you. At the minute, the calls are scheduled for Monday, 12:30. They're all recorded. On a call, we do a nervous system activity, which hopefully gives us all a chance to settle, take some nice deep breaths, and feel a bit calmer. I do a little bit of education. And then there's a chance we go around every single person, we check in, we offer support and advice that you similar to how you would work with me if we were one-to-one. And then you get support between those calls. We have our community group for daily chat, for questions and support. So remember, you've got time to get this 25% discount. That's going to expire at the end of today. I have limited spaces, but I would love to hear from you if this is of interest, and I would love to work with you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that I haven't taken too much time out of your day. And do remember that my emails, my Instagram DMs are always open to chat either about this or about recovery in general. Thank you so much.